What's good, y'all? Welcome back to Rick Knows Hoops. I'm your host, Tyreek. And if you ain't watching the Knicks Hawks playoff series, you're missing out on some great basketball, man. So be sure to tune into that series and be sure to leave a like on this video. Subscribe if you're new to the channel where we talk about NBA basketball. So if you love hoops, this is the place for you. And today I want to talk about this Knicks Hawks series, man. Game 2 was one of the better games that I've watched all year, man. And I just got to give a big shout out to the Garden. That's the first thing I got to say. Madison Square Garden, it was rocking in game 1, and it might have been even louder in game 2. And especially when the Knicks started to click in that second half, man. Atlanta got off to a nice double-digit lead early in the first half and carried it on into early the third quarter. But then the Knicks really started playing good basketball. Julius Randle was just pitiful in the first half. And in that third quarter, he was able to really pick it up. I don't really get why he's struggling so much in this series so far. It's really just been a tough series for him. And they're not even guarding him with Deandre Hunter. Shout out to Deandre Hunter. He has been excellent in this series. Coming off an injury, he's been great. He was really good last night. But that's when the game started to turn, really, was when he got subbed out in the third quarter. Then the Knicks started going on a nice run, man. It was Derrick Rose hitting shots. Julius Randle started to hit a few shots. Reggie Bullock was shooting the three ball very well, man. The Knicks really just caught fire, and the Hawks weren't able to recover. But it's interesting how they're using Danilo Gallinari to cover Julius Randle on the defensive end. And that, if I'm Julius Randle, man, I'm like, he should be feasting on that matchup, because no disrespect to Gallinari, but he's not an elite defender. He's been like an average defender pretty much most of his career. So if I'm Julius Randle, like, he should take that as a little bit of like why are you guarding me with Gallinari, knowing that he's not, more of an elite defender like maybe a DeAndre Hunter is. Like, I don't know. That's just kind of weird how Julius Randle is struggling. But you gotta give a lot of credit to the Atlanta Hawks for the defensive scheme that they put in front of Julius Randle, because it's been working so far. But as for the Knicks, like I said, the energy was crazy, man. I really just enjoy watching Derrick Rose play good basketball. I think I speak for every NBA fan when I say that, especially after everything he's been through. But I've been one that says I think now he's a better just basketball player than what he was even when he won MVP. Now, obviously, his raw talent was off the charts back then. Like, obviously, that was an MVP player. But I just think, like, skill set wise, I think Derrick Rose is a much better basketball player today. And we got to stop using the vintage word anytime we see Derrick Rose play good. I don't get why that word's associated with him. And he said that too on his Instagram. If you're not following Derrick Rose on Instagram, you're missing out, because he really be posting some just great messages, and it's always inspiring, like reading what he has to say and what's really on his mind, because he's a man of very few words when it comes to talking to the media and stuff like that. So it's good to get an in-depth look of what's really going on in his head, and he be saying some inspirational stuff. So follow Derrick Rose on Instagram. I guess this is a little Derrick Rose promo, but he was basically saying like nothing about his game is vintage. He's not dunking like he used to. He doesn't use his athleticism like he used to. Like, he still shoot the floater, but I mean, that's really it. Like, he said nothing about his game is vintage. So stop using that word with him, man. Everybody who uses it, they know who they are. Just stop using that word with him. But he had a very big game last night. He had 26 points off that bench, and he was really the catalyst, because the Knicks were struggling in the first half. Really, him and RJ Barrett were the only ones being able to provide any offense in that first half. And then third quarter, the rest of the team was able to pick it up. Julius Randle had a very big third quarter. I believe he scored double figures in the quarter. Reggie Bullock was hitting jumpers. Taj Gibson had some very, very good minutes in that third quarter as well. I'm doing a really good job of just, securing defensive rebounds, because Clint Capella has been a monster this season on the boards. And the Knicks were doing a great job just keeping it one and done on the defensive end. They were doing an amazing job with that. I got to give a lot of credit to just how the Knicks, they defended the pick and roll with Trae Young and Capella very well. Trae Young did have a big scoring game, but it didn't feel like, at least in that second half, like the impact was there as much. First half, he was getting a lot of clean looks. He hit some deep threes, which we know he can do very well. But the Knicks did a very good job guarding the pick and roll in the second half, hedging and recovering. They did a very good job doing that. Obi Toppin gave them some great minutes to start the fourth quarter. I love seeing Obi Toppin play good basketball. That's a player I would really just love to talk to, because he went to Dayton, which is just, right up the road from where I live, like 30 minutes away. So I would like to really just talk to him and, just see, what he thinks about, his rookie year and all that stuff. But a little off topic. If he sees this, hopefully we can get a conversation. But I really like this. I love this series. Like, this has been my favorite series to watch so far. Really, I think I called that this is going to be a 7-game series, but it's been even better than what I could imagine, man. And I made a tweet like I have to go to Madison Square Garden someday, bro. Like, I really have to be in that environment, especially when the Knicks are good, because I just feel like that environment is unmatched, man. I really just I have to be at the Garden someday. But it's just good to see this series being as competitive as most of us thought it would be. So if you're not watching this series, man, definitely tune in. But for the Knicks, I'm gonna just like preview Game 3 because it's gonna be in Atlanta now. Trae Young, he reminded us of that. He said, "See you guys in the A." For the Knicks, man, Julius Randle, he can't be the player that he was these first 2 games. He's got to be that All-NBA player that he's shown this entire season that he's been. And because typically in road games, your role players don't play as well. That's just a fact. You could probably rely on Derrick Rose to be very consistent on the road, but you can't rely on Emmanuel Quickley and Reggie Bullock and maybe even Alec Burks. Like, you can't rely on those guys to give you the games that they might have gave you last night or in Game 1. Like, Reggie Bullock had 15 points last night. Most of those coming in the second half. I mean, it's going to be a different environment in Atlanta. And also, Obi Toppin giving good minutes off the bench. A rookie might be rattled in his first road playoff game. I just realized Taj Gibson played 30 minutes. And his 30 minutes was very impactful, even though he only had 6.7 rebounds. But, Emmanuel Quickley, he already didn't play well really the first couple of games. Who knows how he's going to be in his first road playoff game. I mean, there's a bunch of players on this Knicks team that don't have a ton of playoff experience. So it's going to be important for Julius Randle, Derrick Rose, possibly an Alec Burks, who I think could be a little more reliable than some other guys, just to, provide, continue to provide what, we know that they're capable of doing. But the main key, Julius Randle has to step up. And as for the Hawks, I mean, you would expect their role players to play a lot better. I'll be interested to see what the adjustment is, because the Knicks made a very good adjustment just guarding the pick and roll, like I said. I want to see what Nate McMillan decides to do to try and get Trae Young, going more in the flow of the offense, because second half, he was pretty much out of the flow of the offense, and then that just completely shut down the rest of the team, for a long stretch of time. John Collins has to be better. That's one thing. He went 0 for 2 last night, did not score a single bucket, no points. He had 5 fouls. He has to be better. I mentioned Deandre Hunter. He didn't shoot the ball well, but he hit 3 threes. He was 3-10 from the field, though, and he made his free throws. I didn't like how long he was sitting on the bench, because when he was on the court, the team was so much better. And that's really how they've been most of this season. Like, early on in the season, they looked like a very, very good team before he got hurt. And then he got hurt, and we saw the Hawks started to struggle a lot. So I think, he needs to – Nate McMillan just has to do a better job managing his minutes. Bogdanovich did not play well last night. He was 2 of 13 from 3, even though he had 18 points, but it was very inefficient, very bad game from him. Gallinari didn't shoot the ball well either. It was just like you expect the Hawks role players to play a lot better at home. So this is gonna be these next 2 games is gonna be very telling in this series, man. I think we might go back to the Garden split 2-2. We might alternate games, honestly, because this series, man, this is what playoff basketball is all about, man. It's not high scoring for the most part. This game was 101-92. This is how the Knicks want to play the game. I'm in love with this series, man. So if you haven't watched game 1 or 2, if you can, make sure you tune into game 3, man, because this is the definition of playoff basketball. I love what I'm seeing, and hopefully game 3 is just as good as the first 2 games. But let's move on to a couple other series that went on last night. Game 2, Jazz, Grizzlies. Donovan Mitchell made his return to the lineup, looked pretty good. Ankle didn't seem to be bothering him too much. He was mad that the team ruled him out in game 1, but he just came back and he dropped 25 points, had a very solid game. Mike Conley, a career high 15 assists, man. Mike Conley is a story like that might be like comeback player of the year that's not dealt with an injury, because he was just so bad last season. But he's really just got back to the Mike Conley that we know. He's back to the Mike Conley that we know. I love to see it for him. Rudy Gobert was dominant. But Ja Morant, I gotta shout out Ja Morant. 47 points in your second playoff game on the road. Utah is not an easy place to play at any point. Their fans are crazy, so that's not an easy place to play, and especially in the postseason. Big shout out to Ja Morant. They did lose this game, but the fact that they were able to get 1 game on the road, I think they go home, a young team, and they're playing with house money. They probably feel a little confident that they can maybe get another game here, when they go back to Memphis. So big shout out to the Grizzlies for getting the split, but it's good to see the Jazz getting healthy at the right time. Dylan Brooks has to stay out of foul trouble. They need him on the court. He was so good in game one and then got in foul trouble. He's one of the, I think he leads the league in personal fouls or something like that. So he's got to keep his hands to himself a little more. He's a very good one-on-one defender, but he has to be very careful, man, because his team needs him on the court in order to neutralize Donovan Mitchell as best as they can. So he's got to stay out of foul trouble, man. But that's the main takeaway I got from that game. And then the 76ers Wizards, I just got to talk about this. And similar thing happened at the Garden too. The Knicks fans were bringing great energy and stuff, but there's no room for spitting on Trae Young. There's no room for that in sports, in basketball. Spitting on somebody is like the most disrespectful thing you could probably do to a person. So there's no room for that, man. And the 76ers fans, we know Philly fans are ridiculous. They boo their own team if they're not playing good. I remember JJ Redick said a couple years ago he had a terrible game one and he got booed off the court when he fouled out at home. And he at home, like by his own fans, like ridiculous. But Russell Westbrook he was going back to the locker room because I think he was dealing with like a little injury. And while he was approaching the tunnel, a fan threw popcorn on him. Not like a couple little pieces of popcorn. It's like they just dumped the entire, thing of popcorn on him. Like ridiculous, bro. Like there's no room for that in sports at all. Like please don't be that fan. Do not be that fan. But as for the game, it was a blowout pretty much the entire way. I like seeing an aggressive Ben Simmons on the offensive side. I think we can all agree we like seeing Ben Simmons when he's, in attack mode because he's a very good player. He knows how to, nobody can stop him really from getting inside. If you put somebody too small on him, he's going to overpower them. You put a big on him, like we seen they put Rudy Gobert on him, and he had the best game scoring-wise of his career. So I would like to see Ben Simmons in attack mode more. He's had a very good series so far. Game one, he had 15 points, 15 rebounds. Shot the free throw very poorly. He only ended up with 6 points. I think he was like 0 for 6 from the free throw line. Obviously, that's the area that we know Ben Simmons has to improve in. But, as for game two, I think he had 22 points, 8 assists. He was in attack mode. And nothing for Philly is more promising than a Ben Simmons that is being aggressive. So that's a good sign. As for the Wizards, game one might have been their best chance to steal the game in this series because they were pretty much in that game the entire way. They can't match up with Philly at all. They're not deep enough. They don't have the front court talent really to keep up with Philly. And now if Russell Westbrook's dealing with an injury, Bradley Beal's already been hobbled with the hamstring. We know he's not 100%. Their best chance to win a game is probably out the window now. So yeah, but there's some games on tonight too. If you guys are interested, Phoenix goes to LA, first home playoff game for the Lakers in I think 8 years. 2013 was the last time they played a home playoff game, which I think they lost. I think they got swept that season. But back in Staples, then a critical game 3, Miami Heat need a win bad. They play the Bucks. Look, I thought this was gonna be a very competitive series. Still only 2 games in. 2 games, as we know, a lot of times that does not tell what the series is gonna be. But the way the Milwaukee just looks so dominant in game 2, but can we expect the Bryn Forbes of the world and the Pat Connaughtons of the world to hit, 3 threes, 5 threes in a road playoff game? Who knows? I would expect, Duncan, Tyler Hero, Dragic. I expect the best players on the team, Jimmy Butler and Bam, to be better. But if they don't win this game, it's pretty much the series is over. Like we just know that the series is over. So critical game 3 must win for the Miami Heat at home. We'll see how they do that game. And then the last game of the night is the Trailblazers and the Nuggets, which, they split game 1 and 2. And Denver looked pretty dominant in game 2. They really did look pretty dominant. It just seemed like it was more of, we'll let Dame do what Dame can do, but we're going to neutralize everybody else. And nobody else for Portland really made that big of an impact. So, because game 1, we saw Melo get off. I think CJ had a pretty solid game. Anthony Simons had a good game. This game, game 2, Dame had a very big first half. Slowed down in the second half, but nobody else picked it up. So maybe that's a strategy for Denver heading to Portland, but now we get the Trailblazers at home. They stole home court already, so critical game 3 here, man. I think series tie 1-1, like the winner of game 3 wins the series like 70% of the time, something weird like that. But I don't know. We got some good games on tonight for sure. I think all these games are gonna be competitive. So make sure y'all tune in. I've been talking for almost 16 minutes, so I'm gonna go ahead and end the video. But one quick thing. These recap style videos, they will be on audio platforms. They will be on audio platforms. I know they're on Spotify right now. At least one of them is. I think it was my playoff preview one. That's on Spotify right now. And they're on some other platforms too. So yeah, tune in. I'm trying to get it on Apple as soon as I can. Hopefully that happens sooner rather than later. But yeah, so that will help the channel grow as a whole, and it will just help this brand, this Rick Knows Hoops brand, grow as a whole. So if you're on Spotify, just look me up. I'll leave the link in the description if you have trouble finding it, and give me a good rating, because we all love hoops around here, and I'm trying my best to give y'all as much in-depth knowledge as I can, man. So I appreciate everybody for the support, and I'll be back next time to talk some hoops with y'all, man. Peace.